Elle est en place. C'est la poudre.
Tiens, on a découpé une femme en morceaux rue de la bienséance à 2 pas du chat. Tiens, on a découpé une
I am a feminist.
Je vous obsède avec une constance.
Je ne me suis pas conduit
qui appelle quand même l'admiration.
D'une façon conforme à ce qu'on attend d'une jeune fille d'abord et d'une femme ensuite.
I'm sorry that I didn't become the world's first black classic pianist.
Donald Trump.
Je crois qu'une femme qui existe dans son temps, à l'intérieur de son temps, n'a pas d'époque, elle marque son époque.
Welcome to La Poudre, an intimate, in-depth conversation with inspiring women. They are artists or activists. They are creative. They're powerful. How did they become women? What books did they read? What fights did they fight? What do they scream? What do they dream? I'm Lorraine Bastide, and today my guest is Niviaq Korneliussen.
Maybe I just wanted to be myself. I wanted to develop myself, and at that time I hadn't told anybody that I was gay. So I had a lot of focus on asking myself who I was and what I should do with my life.
Each time I read a book, especially if it was written by a woman, I feel like I am meeting someone. It's fascinating how literature makes you deep dive into someone else's mind. As if you were suddenly plugged to one's brain, listening to one's inner voice.
On people's lips, in their houses, in the streets, in the fields.
When I meet an author from a long time ago, I feel a deep sadness for not being able to meet with her for real. I would love to chat with Virginia Woolf, Monique Wittig, or Audre Lorde. And sometimes I meet a contemporary woman. And I feel so excited because she's right here. I could almost touch her. I feel the urge to meet her, to hear her, and to keep on listening to her inner voice. I felt this urge when I read Niviaq Korneliussen's novel a year ago. Except she lives in Greenland, and Greenland is far, far away from Paris. It made things a bit more complicated. I had to be patient. I had to wait for over a year until she came to France, and it finally happened. After listening to this interview, you will probably feel the urge to read a book, and maybe even to write one. Niviaq Korneliussen, you're a writer and the acclaimed author of a book named Crimson in English, but whose title in French and in its original version is the incredibly powerful Homo sapien. You're only 28, and I think you're the youngest guest I ever talked to in this podcast. You grew up in Greenland, and you wrote your book in Greenland's official language, Kalaallisut. I felt the urge...
That's a really good pronunciation.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so proud. So I felt the urge to meet you as soon as I started reading your book. It literally blew my mind because it opened my eyes to a society I was blind to until you. You gave me the reality of the lives of urban queer young people who live in this huge country that most of us picture as a land of ice where people live in igloos. I realized that although I thought I was an informed person with an open mind and a hate of stereotypes, I had no idea what I was going to find in your book. And I guess most of your readers out of Greenland felt the same thing. The system of the medias and the books is not built for your voice to reach my ears. So, Niviaq, what happened? What enabled your voice to reach me, a white privileged journalist from Paris? Is it a miracle or was it your destiny?
No, I don't think it's a miracle. I'm not really sure. When I get this question, I'm not really sure what to answer because I had no idea that it was going to be that broad. I was thinking that when I published the Greenlandic and Danish version, it was just going to collect some dust in the old libraries and stuff like that. Usually Greenlandic books are like that. So I'm not really sure why it has become such a bestseller in so many countries. Maybe it's because it's very global, even though it's happening in Greenland. I'm talking about a lot about home, about not belonging, about the miscommunications between people and about love, first of all. And I think those things are universal. So maybe that's why. And maybe you should tell me why.
I have the same feeling, and that's what
Yeah.
I want to talk about in this interview, that it is universal, especially the question of identity. I guess it's all about like who I am, this book, and it's a question every single human, I think, asks himself at some
Yeah,
point.
exactly. And but I noticed that what is very liberating with the French version is that people in Montreal, where it's first published, have become more and more interested in the question about identity, and people are more focusing on that in my book. In Denmark, for example, they focus on me being a Greenlander. They focus on me being maybe a very angry Greenlander, a new kind of Greenlander. Actually, I don't really know what they say about me, but the focus in Greenland and Denmark has been very different from here in France and in Montreal. So I think it's very liberating to be able to talk about identity, which was why I wrote it. Actually, I didn't write it because I wrote about identity, and that's the main theme, I think.
Yeah.
And it's really good to be able to talk about that instead of focusing on all the stereotypes we have between Greenland and Denmark.
Yeah. Maybe it's the fact that we're not totally aware about the political background also of
Exactly.
Greenland when we read it. I mean, I searched about it later, but when I read it, I was just discovering it all. And maybe I had less, stereotypes, as you said.
Exactly.
So, Niviaq, in this podcast, we try to understand how the women who were making the 21st century were built. So we're going to rewind a little, if you
okay.
So you grew up in Nanortalik, a small village in the south of Greenland. So my first question is, what was it like to grow up there?
It's a very small city. It actually means the place with polar bears. It's like they have the polar bears had a root in like very close to the city. At the time I was living there were like 1,500 people. It was a very small island in Greenland, which is an island as well. It was very small. I knew everyone around me. And but I grew up with my two sisters and my parents and our families and friends. I think today there's like 1,000 people. It's a little bit sad when I get to go home.
It's getting like smaller. People are leaving.
Yeah, people are leaving. People are kind of forced to leave to the bigger cities because there are no working places at all. But I remember my childhood as something that is very important for the person I am today. Because even though I grew up with like some loving parents and my sisters, I also grew up amongst children who maybe have had different backgrounds, and we were all together. And that way I could talk to many different kinds of people, children. And I remember my childhood as being very free. We were out all the time. We were out in the nature and we played, and nobody kind of took care of us. We should just be home at 6 where dinner is at, and then we could go out again. So it was. I really think that it has formed me as a very independent person today.
Your parents were both civil servants, working for the state?
Yes. Yeah.
How did they educate you? How were you talked to when you were a kid?
I'm not really sure. I remember my father reading books to me. I played a lot with my dad. And they were... I'm not really sure. It was just a very normal childhood, you know. We read some books, but there weren't really any opportunities. We didn't really have access to the internet at that time. So it was just the kids' imagination that meant something to us. But my parents were good. I don't know. I don't really know what to say. We got to at least we got to travel like once every 2 years to Europe, mostly Denmark. And I remember that my parents told me when I saw some very different kinds of people, like maybe a gay couple that were male, that I shouldn't look too much because that's just normal, because we never see that in our city. So that way they. When we traveled to other countries, they taught us how to socialize, and they taught us how to be respectful for other people and so forth. So I think that's also why I've never had a hard time coming out as a gay person. So
yeah. And what kind of mom did you have as a kid? I'm wondering about the model of women you have grew up with.
My mother is very strong. She grew up in a very harsh environment when she was a kid, and then she met my father in a very young age. I think she's. Like, I know every person may say that my mother is the strongest person in the world, but I really believe it when I say it, because she's very hardcore. She's maybe not she's not that much that expressive about feelings and stuff like that, but I always know where she is, and I always know that I can count on her and stuff like that, and she's very close to the nature, and she's very how do you say in English, like if she comes up with an idea, okay, maybe we could climb this mountain tomorrow or this evening or something like that. Impulsive, yes, impulsive. And that's also what I've become, maybe because I'm reflecting on my mother so much.
Trusting your guts and your intuition,
exactly.
or something like that.
If I feel like it, I do it, just like my mom. And that's the way she is. If she wants to do something, she does it. No question.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So I read you've had quite a lot of articles about you, many interviews in the American and Canadian press. So I read a few stuff. Tell me if it's right, because sometimes the journalists make some mistakes. So I read that you had a quite rebel teenagehood, that you spray painted slogans on the walls and you listened to punk music. I was wondering, I also read you had a passion for the singer Pink, and actually there is a title of one of the chapter of the book is named after one of her songs. What were you rebelling against at that time?
I think it's a really big word, because in comparison to the other children, I don't really think that I was that rebellious. Because I was always respectful. Well, sometimes, and I don't really know. Maybe it was in my teenage years when I maybe discovered that I was gay. And I was kind of in my society at that time, it was either you were masculine or either you were totally rebellious and absolutely not close to the maturity. When I discovered that I was gay, maybe in my conscious, I kind of started, as you said, listening to punk music and wearing all black, and did my own small stuff like spraying the anarchy sign in buildings. And I didn't even know what that meant at that time. But Avril Lavigne, I listened to her a lot, and she was very a tomboy. And I really looked up to her. And Pink is also a tomboy, whatever that means. But I was very close to like strong, independent women because I really didn't really have anyone to turn to because I had no gay role models in my society. And maybe that's why I had an urge to express myself somehow and trying to open up the world by listening to music. And not being a normal kind of teenager. Yeah, that was kind of important to me. I think I was trying to get away from my society, maybe somehow. Yeah.
In your book, your characters spend a lot of time searching for answers on internet. You write, Google knows everything. And at some point, one of the character researches romantic attraction, sexual behavior between members of the same sex or gender. I was wondering if it was something you did as a teenager.
No, not really.
No.
Because as I said, we didn't really have access to the internet at that time. Maybe when I came back from the States when I was an exchange student for a year. When I was 17 to 18. And when I went back and I was 18, maybe, I moved to a bigger place in South Greenland. And I was trying to discover what it meant to be gay. Because it didn't really help that I was in the States because I lived with a very conservative family.
Yes, I read about
that.
Terrible,
that was
Trump electors.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but it's true. They had some gay friends and stuff like that because they were trying to be open-minded, but they didn't believe in gay marriage and stuff. Yeah, but it didn't really help that I was in the States. But when I got back home to South Greenland, to a bigger place, I saw some gay people, and I was just trying to discover what it meant. And I was absolutely sure about that the gay lifestyle would be totally different from the straight one. And that's just ignorance, maybe. I didn't really know any better. Yeah, but I remember when I went to youth college, I had access to the internet. I chatted a lot with gay people, people I didn't know from the rest of the world. And that kind of helped me open the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And also it's at the same moment when you were a teenager, I guess, that you started to write.
Yes.
Why did you feel the urge to write at that moment?
Well, I've always been very, I've always loved to write since I couldn't write actually. I was like, when my big sister wrote diaries, I was like, I want to write diaries as well, but I couldn't write. I didn't know the alphabet. I was like 6 years old or something like that. But when I got a chance to write, when I learned the alphabet and to write, I actually started writing stories. But I had a hard time expressing myself. Like, I really had a hard time trying to discover what my language was like. And so it was when I was 18, I think, that I really started writing like long stories, maybe short story kind of things, and just created some people I would like to meet in reality. And that was my way of coming out to the world, maybe. My way of escaping. It sounds like it was a really bad childhood. It wasn't.
No,
yeah, but I think we all have like an urge to find to find out some more things, and that was my way of discovering a world where nothing was limited and everything was open. And I just created a lot of gay characters actually also. Maybe some people I would like to meet, or maybe some people I would want to be. I don't know.
Actually, it sounds similar to what you were telling me earlier about this like slightly rebellious teenage years you spent like creating a world, like because you didn't have enough role models around you, so you created them. It sounds like something really mature and positive
I'm
to
really
do, like.
I'm actually really happy that I have a talent for writing, because I cannot imagine what it would be like for me if I wasn't able to write. I wouldn't know what to do. Maybe I would pack a bag and then travel the rest of the world, being homeless or something like that. I have no idea. I have no idea. But I feel very privileged to be able to escape through writing.
Do you remember what were your dreams when you were like, maybe when you were studying in California, when you were 17 or 18? Where did you picture yourself?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I just wanted to be myself. I wanted to develop myself, and at that time I hadn't told anybody that I was gay. So I had a lot of focus on like asking myself who I was and what I should do with my life and with my family. Still be my family, and all these questions that maybe all gay people have at some point in their lives. So at that time I was focusing on that, but I always dreamed of working with people, getting to know people. So I wanted to study psychology, and which I did also for a year. But then my book came out and then I dropped out, and I've been working with this ever since. But I think I'm not really sure why I might imagine myself, but I imagine myself in a world where I could be myself, and being free and feeling liberated. That's always the feeling I urge, kind of.
That sounds like the book a lot.
Yes, it is actually. Yeah, it was. I think it was like my coming out, everything.
Everything is in there. Niviaq, were you born a woman, or did you rather become one?
I think I was born a woman. I think I've always been very strong and very opinionated. Ever since I was a very small kid. And of course, I had some struggles becoming who I am today. But I think like it's in my genes, it's in my DNA that I'm kind of rebellious and kind of like I don't really give a fuck about what other people might think. And I've always been like that. I've always been very curious as well. So I think it was meant to be like this.
I love that. For you, being a woman is being this type of person.
Yes.
That doesn't ask permission. I love it. I mean, it's the best answer I ever got to that question.
Really?
Thank you so much. So when you were about 18, Greenland became independent?
Not independent. We have self-governance.
Oh, it's not independence yet. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mistaken.
It's okay.
So I guess most French listeners don't know it, but Greenland has been a Danish colony since 1814. Before that, it was under foreign control since 1516. Greenland's history is fascinating, and I can only encourage my listener to go and read about it, as I did last night. And I was like, wow, it's like incredible. And all those waves of people, and some moment where there is no one on this island, and then more people come. I think it's really fascinating and beautiful. So in 2009, it reached this almost independence. So can you repeat the name again?
Self-governance.
Self-governance.
Yes.
Do you remember how you felt after this political shift in your homeland, which happened after a referendum, I think?
It was, at that time, I was very young. I didn't really care about that much about politics. But I remember that I voted no for self-governance.
Okay.
Because I didn't really believe in my country. Self-governance means that you have like, then you bring back home you govern some big areas yourself. The foreign department is still Denmark in Denmark, and the police and the healthcare system is still a part of Denmark, but we have big areas now, and that's what self-governance means. And I voted no because I was very concerned that that we couldn't do it on our own, but we have kind of, I don't know, it's very complicated because we're such a small society and we get a lot of money from Denmark, and we haven't really figured out how to earn some more money ourselves. And there are a lot of social issues, and I was thinking a lot about those people who are gonna maybe we're gonna be most affected by being poor, not getting any help.
You were fearing like an economical crisis.
Yes,
linked
exactly.
to this,
And I was kind of afraid of that. People were gonna get even poorer, and but that hasn't really changed, and it hasn't really changed anything. But people in my country have been talking about independency for a very long time, and I kind of understand that, like, we want to become an independent country, and we have to value on our own traditions and language and way of living, and I really agree on that at some points, but I don't really think that we should rush into anything because we're so dependent on Denmark's economy right now, and there are so many children who have a hard life, and I really think that we should spend all our energy focusing on that, focusing on trying to get help to the people who need it, instead of trying to become independent to prove something. I don't know. It's very complicated. I'm not saying that I'm against independency at all. I really love my country. I really do love my culture and language. But at some, like, if we become independent, we have to cooperate with some country, and I'd rather work with Denmark than China, for example.
Yeah. I heard you say that Denmark wasn't as a bad colonizer as other countries could be. Like,
yeah, but they were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. They didn't kill anyone, and that's what the Danish people say all the time. We didn't kill anyone.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there wasn't any violence, but it was really bad. It has affected our society very, very much, and it's still very new. But like in comparison to other indigenous people, for example, the Inuit in Canada, I feel very privileged to be able to still speak my own language and to value my culture. And Inuit in Canada can't really do that. So maybe there's some. It's not black and white, It's very complicated.
Of course. I think you came out to your parents at the exact same moment, more or less, in the same year.
When I was 18.
Yeah,
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really remember.
It's kind of a I mean, like a turn. I don't know, in your life where all this changed, but it probably my reading of like trying to link spots between them.
Yeah, yeah. I came out to my dad. Actually, I wrote a text message.
Oh my God.
It was
That sounds like the
so
book
bad.
too.
Like, I wrote a very long text message to him, which I've been writing for like a couple of days, I think, which were explaining that maybe I'm 80% to men and maybe 20% to women and stuff like that. Yeah, it was so naive and it was so stupid, but I came out
hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. I was actually I had no idea how they were gonna react. Maybe I knew kind of in my conscience that they weren't gonna give a shit, but it's still a huge step especially when I had no role models to lean up against, and when I didn't really have any gay friends at all. So I had no idea what it meant to be queer, and that made it very hard. But as soon as I came out, he wrote to me like 2 sentences. Thanks for telling me, like in a kind way. We don't give a shit. we love you anyways. That's what he said. And he told my mom. I had already told my sister, and there was no drama. There was just absolutely nothing. And I'm pretty sure that my dad actually likes it more that I'm into women than I'm into men, because he has 3 daughters, and he loves just having daughters, like and he doesn't really trust boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Your dad is a feminist.
yeah, he is. So that was really easy, and afterwards I just came out to everyone in my society, and I had a girlfriend, and it was really easy.
You must have felt so much relief after
Yes,
all these
and
years.
I really think that my development, my identity grew very quickly at that time. Like within a year, it felt like I was 5 years older or something like that. So it really, I'm really glad that I didn't do it later. Yeah.
Wow. You studied in Denmark a little?
Yes.
Like the character, one of the character of your book, you studied psychology in Aarhus University. Is that it? It's like one of the biggest university in Denmark. In an interview I read, you mentioned the overwhelming amount of racism you were getting when you lived there. I don't want it to explain things that are painful to you, but I wondered how you were coping with it at that time when you were alone in this country, far from your family, and you were going through this. What were your coping methods?
I had my few friends who were Greenlandic also. I had my sister living there also at that time, so it made it very easier. But I don't really get affected by ignorant people. I don't really like to overthink anything when I experience something. Of course, sometimes I get mad, but as long as I know that maybe it's a racist or it's a ignorant person who don't know anything about Greenland, I just don't care. So I don't really get affected by it as much as, but I wasn't like physically insulted or anything like that. It was just vocally. But I stayed there for like a year, and I could maybe the hardest thing was it wasn't the racism, but it was socializing with the other young people who were Danish, because their culture, their way of living, their the way they understand and see the human being is so different, so completely different from the Greenlandic perspective, that it was very hard to communicate, even though we spoke the same language and stuff like that. So it was really, really hard to what's the very popular word, integrate. Integrate, yeah. Even though I was 25 at that point. So that was maybe the hardest part. I imagined myself becoming friends with many people who were like-minded and open-minded, but it's really hard when they don't really know anything about Greenland, where I come from. So the only things they're interested in is me being a Greenlander. And they ask me stuff like, do you have the internet, and where do you shop? And like you said, do you live in igloos and stuff like that? So it's really hard to meet each other at the same level when they don't know where I'm coming from. And very quickly I became the Greenlander instead of just Niviaq, which I wanted to be. So I stayed there for a year, and it was okay, but I really missed the view, also the nature in Greenland. And it was so humid. in Denmark. I couldn't, and the winters were so dark. Like it's just gray and it's stormy.
Darker than
Yes.
Greenland?
Well, the sun is up a little longer, I think, but people are always like in Greenland it's so dark during the winter. It is dark, but we have the northern lights, we have the stars, we have the moon, we have the snow. So it's not at all the same. It was very depressive when I spent a winter in Denmark. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna move back to Denmark.
Okay, that's done.
Yeah.
So in this podcast, I try to tackle intersectionality and understand how different oppressions tend to combine themselves rather than just add themselves to each other. So some of my guests were women of color who helped me understand what it meant to experiment racism as a Black woman or as an Asian woman, which in their case would be like, for example, hypersexualization or like exoticism. And I was wondering if you felt, as a Inuit woman from Greenland, that some specific stereotypes applied to you.
Oh yes. Like in Denmark, a lot of people think that we all drink. We're all alcoholics, and especially the Greenlandic men are like asexual. Actually, they don't have a sexuality. They're just a bunch of angry hunters or something like that. And as a woman, maybe it's kind of the same. People don't really consider you as a human being with a sexuality, and they ask me stuff like, "So are you an alcoholic? Do you have problems with alcohol? And have your parents abused you, sexually abused you?" And yeah, like weird stuff. But I don't really think, because maybe I'm not the typical kind of Greenlander, because I speak many 3 languages. I speak English, Danish, and Greenlandic, all of them fluently. And I've been traveling a lot in Denmark. So at that way, people see me as an educated Greenlander. And that's very different from maybe, I don't know what to say about maybe a typical Greenlander or have a hard time speaking Danish. Maybe doesn't really know anything about the outside world. And I think they meet a lot of racism when they travel to Denmark.
Yeah. So your book is really mind-blowing for anyone who has some interest for gender studies. Your characters are absolutely non-binary. Even the name you chose for them are very interesting in that sense. Like the main boy's character name is Nuuk, which means human. The party girl's name character, Arnak, is a woman. And another character, a trans boy, is called Ivik, and it means boy. You studied sociology a little, and in France, you should know that gender studies are very badly understood. It's still complicated to study them. There are very, very few universities where you can find this kind of teaching. And I was wondering if you had a chance to study gender studies in Greenland.
Nope.
No?
Nope. We have a very different perspective on gender in Greenland. Actually, in our language, there's no he or she. So everything is very non-binary. So I think it's just in my nature that I know about these things. Like Alnak means human. Alnak means woman, and Ivik actually is like a flower or something. But when you add Ivingwak to it, it becomes like feminine kind of a name. But all names can be used to, like many of the names can be used to each gender. But I think I haven't studied at all. Like I don't really give a shit anyways, because I think it's like we don't really put people in boxes. In Greenland, our sexualities are so fluent that we don't really like, okay, I'm bisexual, I'm pansexual, I'm something. Maybe I'm non-binary or something, because we don't even have that in our language.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like when you say he's running or something, he's coming. You don't say he in Greenlandic. You just say coming. The person is coming. So it's actually very inspiring somehow that our language doesn't really have gender in it, and I think I think that has been very interesting to me. The perspective on not categorizing people and just calling them human beings instead. And I'm not really. Yeah, I know it's very complicated with when you talk about sexuality and gender, but I think it's up to a person, and I think most of Greenland have the same perspective. Yeah,
I think maybe it's one of the reasons why your book is so striking, because I mean, as an I don't know, a woman who lived in France, in Europe, where like things are very binary and very genderized, I had to work and study and read books to like get rid of this vision and like reach this level of like gender fluidity.
Yeah.
And what you're telling me is that you grew up in this kind of spirit and culture. And
yeah, exactly.
so that's probably why your book is so striking, because it's just like your natural way of
it's
thinking.
very natural. It's very natural, and it wasn't like well thought. I just wrote it. It felt right. But I think, of course, in our society, the men are the hunters because they're stronger. They can survive more in the nature, and the women are who are the ones who give birth to the children. They take care of them and make food. They make clothes, and I'm talking about 200 years ago, and that's just because it was necessary, because everyone in the society meant something to enable to be able to exist. So everyone mattered, and I really think that before Christianity came, the Greenlanders were so strong, and afterwards it has been a rough couple of years, because then suddenly we discovered that like in the old days in Greenland, people were so sexually fluid that when there were two partners, a man and a woman, who couldn't get pregnant, the woman just went to another man and had sex with him, so they could get pregnant. So they were like a big family. So and they actually had some games just to mix plots. When some other people from another village came to their village, they just had sex, all of them.
Wow, that sounds
yeah,
great.
And it sounded great. It really sounds great, because there were no diseases, there was nothing at all. And then the Danish men came to our country and then kind of destroyed everything. So I think we're trying to get back to the same mentality that we have, not because we're gonna have sex with everybody around us, but I think that mentality kind of disappeared, but it's coming back now, and I think it's a very, very good thing. And I really noticed when I'm in Denmark, people are so busy trying to identify themselves as I said, pansexual, bisexual. I don't know. And in Greenland, okay, yeah, I had sex with a woman before, and it was fun. And then you don't question it anymore. Like, are you bi then, or like you don't really question it. And it's so refreshing, kind of.
Yeah.
But that's really nothing I knew about before I moved to Denmark and I discovered the differences. Yeah.
So people know like you won this literature competition when you were like 23 or something.
I was nominated to it.
You were nominated.
Yes, I didn't win it. It was an old man who won it.
Oh, that's not fair. So it was a short story about like a story between two women, love story between two women in San Francisco.
No, you're talking about the short story competition. Yes.
This one you won, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
And that was what gave you the chance to write Homo sapien.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so the government like gave you 3 months to write this book, and you took only 3 weeks.
Yes. The first 2 months, I did nothing.
You procrastinated.
It was so fun.
Like all writers do, right?
Yeah, maybe. I think so.
So I was just wondering, you told me a little earlier that you were not expecting your writing to reach the rest of the world that much. So what were you hoping for your story to become?
I was just hoping to maybe inspire some Greenlandic young people who, because when I was young, I was really interested in literature about reading stories, but all the stories I read were like about hunters in like 100 years back, and like some memoirs about some old dudes about the good old days, and yeah, it was so sexist and it was so not my style. So I decided to write a book that I would have wanted to read when I was a teenager. So I was just hoping that some teenagers would get the book, and like maybe I would inspire someone to come out of the closet and maybe just be themselves, and just to explain to them that our society isn't black and white. It's very complicated, and that's what makes it beautiful. So I was just hoping to inspire some young people, some Greenlandic young people.
You were talking to them,
yes,
first of all.
very, very much.
So in your book there is so it's about 5 young people who live in Nuuk, which is Greenland's capital. There is alcohol, there is sex, there are parties. In a way, it looks like any other Occidental youth, like it could happen in Paris or in New York. And there is also a great deal of depression, I think, that is linked to this search of identity you were talking earlier. And we're reaching this universality we were mentioning through this depression that is maybe typical of the 21st century. If you
I think so. I think it's very universal, that you feel that you don't belong. I've met so many young people in other countries who live like in the middle of a big city, in Montreal, for example, and they feel they have the exact same feelings. But I think in this book, what makes it very special is that our search for identity is much more complex than maybe a white privileged woman in a big city, because we are indigenous people, and we live in a very small society and very isolated society, and you have to have like a lot of money to be able to travel to another country, and I really think that the internet plays a really big role in this, because that's our access to the rest of the world, you know. And our search for identity is much more complex, because when you live in small societies, it's much harder to become yourself and not be the same as everyone else. And our way of living and our way of like seeing the human being is very different from the European, and that's what I think makes it more interesting.
Yeah, totally. You don't idealize Greenland at all in your book. Actually, at some point, one of the characters is afraid of homophobia and he moves to Denmark because he's going to be safer there. And also one of the other character, Arnak, which is my favorite character in the book.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I love her. I identify to her very much. She has been abused by her father, an alcoholic father. And some people use this to prove their point. Some people were like, see, Greenland is a land of alcoholic people and violent people, as you were saying earlier, so the stereotypes. So I was wondering if you find it like harder to formulate the oppression that exists inside your community when you are already an oppressed community. So you see what I mean?
Yes, I do. I think the reason why I wrote this chapter with Nuuk, where I really criticize my society, is that I knew I had to be very harsh and able to be able to poke to my society. And we do have some problems. We do have a lot of problems with alcohol, with sexual abuse. And I really felt like I was questioning myself. It was if it was going to become huge in Denmark or in other countries. That's what people are going to focus on. And I really didn't want to create any more stereotypes of Greenland. But I found it very necessary to write about because I wanted my society to hear it from a young Greenlander and not from some Dane.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to criticize your own society that way when you believe in your society. But I have to be provocative to be able to create some discussions, debates.
Yeah. You insist a lot on your interviews on the fact that gay and lesbian people in Greenland have the exact same rights as heterosexual. In France right now, it's not the case. There is a debate. Yeah, there is a very strong debate right now about the right to procreate with medical help, which is a right heterosexual women have, but not lesbian women. And it's interesting because the whole debate is going on without ever asking the gay women opinion about it. But that's another story. So that leads me to a very weird question I ask to every guest in my podcast. How do you get along with your uterus? I know.
I don't really think about my uterus, actually.
Yeah, you don't think about maternity or...
I have a girlfriend, and she has much better genes looks than I do, and I don't know. It just doesn't feel natural for me to have like children on my own, to give birth, and that's just something that's always been there. I've always felt like that. So I was so lucky to find a very beautiful woman who wanted to give birth to children. So I don't really have like special connections to my uterus.
You're lucky to be able to ignore it.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I feel extremely lucky. But if I hadn't found her and I wanted children, I would have adopted maybe a Greenlandic child. So I don't really that's the last thing I ever think about, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Nature is very present in Greenland, and I saw that you post a lot of pictures on your Instagram of the skies and the northern lights.
Yes.
And I also feel like there is kind of a pressure in Greenland because the whole world is looking at the way the ice is melting there and how it is like a symbol of global warming. And I was wondering how you felt about this.
Of course, it's very. I think it's a good thing that people are so focusing on Greenlandic nature right now, because we get more aware of not polluting our nature, and I don't really think that it's going to be a problem to pollute our nature because we have so much respect for our nature, but it gets a bit. I don't know, when people ask me to say something about global warming and to write a short story about global warming just because I'm from Greenland.
Yeah.
Of course, there was a lot more snow when I was a child, and maybe we have bigger storms right now. But other than that, I don't really...
Not a specialist.
Yeah, I'm not a specialist at all. I haven't even been on the ice. But I think it's a good thing that people are focusing on Greenland. Because it is important, and I think it's important to talk about and to get some specialists talk about it and not just some random people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In your book, at some point, Nuuk writes to his sister, "All I want is to be home. Home is in me. Home is me. I am home." It reminded me of a question I asked to all of my guests. Do you have access to a room of your own?
Yes, I do, because I'm privileged. If I wasn't an author and if I didn't travel as much as I do, I almost travel like each month to different countries, I would feel very I would suffocate maybe in my small capital city. And I really feel like Nuuk is my home because I travel that much. But if I didn't travel that much, I would want to escape somehow. But Nuuk is my home. I really feel like there's no other place that's like Nuuk, because we have like this amazing nature, and there's silence, and there are no people around. Like you never feel, and you always feel safe. And my family is there, my friends are there, my house is there, and my dogs also.
And it's far, right? I took you a day to come here in Caen?
Well, I left Nuuk yesterday morning, and then I have to go to another city in Greenland, and then 4.5 hours to Denmark. And then I arrived in Denmark very late because of the time difference. And then I left for France this morning. It's a long trip.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive also.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm privileged and I feel very lucky. So there's nothing to complain about.
Niviaq, what does la poudre, the powder, means to you?
The powder?
The name of the podcast. What does it evoke you, this word?
Powder. It reminds me of babies, actually.
Ah, funny.
Yes.
See?
Maybe it's time for me to have children. Because I'm thinking about baby powder. Because I never wear makeup powder. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a very cute name. It's a cute name. It's not like sexy or anything. It reminds you of babies. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It was such an honor to be able to talk to you, Niviaq.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Niviaq Korneliussen for being my guest in La Poudre. This episode was recorded at Hôtel des 4 Ans in Caen, whom I thank a lot for their hospitality. I would also like to thank Le Festival Les Boréales for making my encounter with Niviaq Korneliussen possible. La Poudre is a podcast by Nouvelles Écoutes, produced by Aurore Meillard-Mailleux, prepared by Gisela Tortello and Laura Cuissard, and mixed by Laurie Galigani.